distinction.
Yeah. But digging into it, man, Alien is a topic or a franchise that me and you both enjoy, even across our respective ages. Both of us have been watching it since we have been young youth. So we're coming from a pretty informative point of view. I've read, a couple of novels through the years, played a few video games like Alien Isolation to kind of fill in certain gaps. So we're not, you know, necessarily noobs coming into this. So just a level set with everybody. Um, so yeah, let's just jump into it, man. So your initial reactions to Alien Earth. How you feeling about the plot, the characters, the xenomorph design, man? Like, let's just get into it.
Well, firstly, before I watched it and gave it a chance, I asked a couple of people their opinions about it when they had seen it. And it's my assumptions are basically correct. And I had to kind of check myself a little bit because I kind of took an elitist stance or
Oh,
ideology about what I was expecting from it.
okay.
And I was right, but I was wrong at the same time because I had to also take a step back from that point of view
Hmm.
because this is the first time this franchise going into something like a TV series.
Right.
And you can't expect the TV series to have the same sci-fi horror elements that a movie did back in the 80s.
Hmm.
So I'm not holding it against the first couple of episodes of it being slow to develop story and characters. I honestly appreciated it
That's
because that
interesting.
was a gripe that people have, and I can see that's some gripe people had on the internet as well. But
Yeah,
I saw nothing wrong with it, and my
yeah,
overall viewpoint is just I appreciate the diversity that we're getting with the lore.
yeah. Because I didn't feel like it was slow, personally. Like, our,
People just want, people just they want the action, they want the alien on screen. But
and we got that. Like that's why I was confused because within the first act or so, like you got the scene where you're introducing the character of the Wayland Utani ship,
mhm.
and they you get a chance to get what their personalities are. You kind of suspect who's the science officer slash android slash cyborg. Like they're giving us the backdrop to identify these characters, characteristics, and who they are, and then they go into hypersleep. Then we get the backstory about the synthetics.
And see, and that's time you can spend explaining in a TV show episode that
Hmm.
you won't waste 30 or 40 minutes in a film that you go to the movies and see.
Yeah.
And I appreciate them for doing that because they did their due diligence with their characters.
Well, and also, you also get the xenomorph like shortly after that. That I guess that's why I'm a bit confused because I feel like they took something where they could have honestly fleshed out a whole episode and made the episode about, you know, the xenomorph kind of, doing xenomorph things that we're used to seeing. So we could have seen how the what do they call it, like the spider, one, kind of come out of the egg and get on somebody's face.
Oh, the
And
face hugger.
yeah, there we go, face hugger. Sorry for yeah. It's look, it's about 8 o'clock at night. I'm a little tired.
So yeah, they gonna try to kill you because
I
you just
know,
went over and told them like we ain't noobs, and you said the spider
I
thing.
know the spider thing. No, I'm just a little tired, but yeah, the face hugger. So we didn't get to see the face hugger in action. We didn't get to see a chest burster in action. We just saw the aftermath of said things and kind of like these images of things that happened that led up to the point of the xenomorph
Right.
stalking one of the crew members, trying to get into the room where Mother was with the cyborg. I can't get his name right now, and he's escaping as the ship is crashing into Earth. So I feel like that's good. That's good. Like that's some fast paced action in a sense, and you get the xenomorph on film, or on screen rather. So I kind of don't
I
understand that.
just think the action wasn't pieced up how they wanted it to be.
Y-
People are so thirsty for Alien, and I get the excitement behind a creature like that. But
But you just still got like even what they set
I
up.
thought it was fine,
Yeah, me
and
too.
also the director made it a point to come out and say like, I want these first couple episodes, however many they're going to be, to flesh out his world and his characters, and then you're going to get the alien more than you've ever seen him. Now,
Hmm.
in what ways we will probably be more in line with the things that you just mentioned. So that's why I'm not too overzealous about it, and I'm not necessarily down on it either. But if I had to lean on the fence and pick a side, I'll definitely go. It's more good than bad. But I can understand. I won't say I can understand, but I can see where certain people are having their criticism from.
I mean, I get it, and I think you just have to be a super nerd, like really in the trenches to get that far. Personally, like where it has to be exactly how you envision it in order for it to be good, and that's just not realistic.
Well, that and that's and doing, what I'm saying, doing my alien research and stuff like that, and coming across Ridley Scott and how fans interpreted his last couple of alien movies and how things played out, and then looking on the internet and how people's opinion of his lack thereof of alien queens and things of that nature. Like, he keeps it really simple to his original creation. He
Hmm.
doesn't do too much to step out of the way. But here again, with the synthetics, the hybrids, the cyborgs, not just the xenomorph itself, but all these other specimens of aliens killing folks and doing things, like, the diversity of lore is there. This is giving me very strong comic book vibes.
Yeah, I feel like it's really exciting. The plot, with you got Wayland Utani, and then you have this new corporation that we've never seen before, heard about. And I think that's kind of what we need in order for this story to make sense from a timeline perspective. And I'll get into the timeline stuff a little later, but
Okay.
because I know people are really kind of hung up on the canon argument, and I feel like it's way too soon to to start like putting the alarm out for it yet. I feel like so
Yeah.
far, yeah, I feel like so far it's actually like we're good, like we're okay. Like there's ways to potentially explain it with where we are right now with episode 3, where everything is actually still intact. Because we have
Well,
to go ahead.
we kind of already hear a little. I'm not going to go
Yeah,
too
yeah.
crazy,
But
but
say yeah. Let's
also,
just
like,
get into it.
yeah, I mean, the creator said he he doesn't want to call it canon per se,
Hmm.
but more so it's just an original story told in that universe. He doesn't want the things that happen here to directly tie into events, but the things that happen here don't have to fundamentally change or skew what happened
Exactly.
in the film.
Exactly. Because the
So
way that
whatever he does, or wherever the story goes, it doesn't have to be a negative connotation uh, slapped onto it, because it doesn't directly interlude itself into the movies. Because the alien universe is so large, there's countless stories that don't intersect with movies at all.
right. Nah, and I like so the way I see it, right? Alien is our first introduction into the alien universe, right?
Mhm.
And so basing it like that's our audience starting point. It is
Yep.
obvious that the company knew about the alien prior to that movie.
Yep.
I like this, so follow me, okay?
Mhm.
And then we
Mhm.
get the story and how it plays out in terms of them trying to get a specimen, you know, and
Yep.
that's what they care about. Um, in the second film, Aliens, you get Burke. He's the one that's trying to keep with the company's interest in trying to get a sample back, to Earth or Wayland Yutani, because I'm not exactly sure about the second one where they are actually at because everything takes out place in space right outside of Earth. So
Mhm.
whatever. Then Alien 3, however many years, actually not even years, sometime a little later, they're still trying to get that thing.
Okay, I got the actual timelines in front of me. Alien takes place in 2122.
Hmm.
Alien Romulus takes place 2142.
Hmm.
Aliens takes place in 2179. Alien 3 takes place in 2179.
Hmm.
And Resurrection is 2381. So
Wow.
this
Yeah.
spans over a couple of thousand years.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. Now we get into let's go back. Prometheus. Okay. Prometheus was not about the xenomorph. Prometheus was about Wayland seeking immortality. And they
Mhm,
happen to stumble upon the black goo, which is the catalyst for all of this stuff that's going on.
mhm.
So even from like let's leave Covenant out of it for right now. Prometheus,
Oh,
because we're going to get there, but Prometheus serves as an immortality story that now starts to intersect to the alien side of things because we can mentally see how we get there because of what this substance does, but we don't get a true xenomorph reference until you get into that monstrosity of a big mutated face hugging looking thing. um
right.
that came out of the main character. Can't remember her name right now. But
Elizabeth Shaw.
yep, Shaw. That came out of her and grew into that monstrosity. Um, the guy that came into contact with the tentacle-like creature,
Uh,
you and he ended up changing into what looked like how the alien was like when he was squatting, then he went around and went on a rampage or whatever. So he had a reference there. And
mhm,
then you had the deacon that birthed from the engineer because he got impregnated by the big thing. So
right.
all of these are alien references, and you kind of see where it goes.
Yep.
But the story is about immortality. Okay,
Mhm,
that's what this is about. Wayland is seeking immortality, so it has nothing to do with the xenomorph. And from my opinion, even if Wayland Yutani as a company knows about the xenomorphs, they have not connected these two dots yet. Okay, so stay with
uh-huh.
me. Covenant comes around. They're still investigating this Wayland lead that led to the Prometheus crew being eliminated. But they're in something, So let's go out there because I forgot exactly what their mission was, but they ended up finding where Shaw and Android David where they land off at.
Right.
David now has pretty much created his version of a xenomorph. It's called a like
Protomorph.
exactly. And
And this is
so
the part of the conversation I wanted us to get to about Covenant. Because I feel like a lot about that and what David is and how he does things is completely misinterpreted by the audience.
exactly. And so people take that as the starting point of the xenomorph and
Absolutely not.
how it's supposed to connect to the first film. Mind you, the company still does not know about the xenomorph at this
Mhm,
point. They still don't know. And so people are taking it, I believe, that whatever David did with his experiments, because David was able to, in my opinion, this is my theory, my opinion, David was able to crack the code to weaponize his own version of what the engineers had already perfected.
right. And that is on track because David's intelligence and intellect and how he views the world is very obscure and it's very intelligent and very niche.
Hmm.
He started doing experiments on people starting with Prometheus.
Yes.
Even then, when he first laid his eyes on the black goo and he got his hands on it, he was able to do things with it and manipulate it. From that very moment, it was all about progression. He was seeing what he could do to create whatever it is that he thinks that the engineers are capable of.
Right.
And you see the progression through the different creatures and aliens that come up in both of those films.
Yeah.
It's a progression.
And so for me, even though they have like Ridley Scott said, alien DNA, they don't connect in full to the xenomorph. It gives you, in a sense, the blueprint of what the engineers did that we don't get to see on screen.
Hmm.
So I'm in saying all of that, everything about Alien Earth is still intact with the Alien universe because it's not trying to replace anything or write anything out. Because for as a company, Wayland's Utani's or Wayland's mission was immortality.
Hmm.
Then the company goes back out to investigate what happens. Okay. And they find this other planet that has sustained life or whatever. And they find a ship and you end up seeing that David was doing whatever. But the only people that survive is the I can't even remember her name, but the young woman that was the main character in that film,
Uh-huh.
and David was about to do something nefarious to her, and we don't know where that ends up
Right.
because they haven't continued on, with that Prometheus time, films yet. But that to me was not a true indication of it connecting to the Alien franchise. So the company, in my opinion, still does not know about the Xenomorph. They don't know. So I
Okay.
believe that Alien Earth is serving as the launch pad into them knowing about the Xenomorph through them going out into the world and exploring and finding these different species of animals through the 65 years that that vessel was out in space.
Yep.
That to me is what's going to ultimately, that's my theory, for it to ultimately connect to the bigger picture, and it keeps everything intact. So something's going to happen where I believe Whale Utani does not get their hands on the specimen. They find out everything about it via the cyborg and whatever's going to happen from here on out with the series, right? But everything's
Mhm.
going to happen with this other company and they get wiped out completely. Something I just have that feeling that they're going to get wiped
Well,
out.
well, well, they have to lose
Yeah,
because in future iterations they don't exist. They're not
exa-
around, and
exactly.
I think that's a very interesting storytelling point for how you set up the mystery of the
Hmm.
synthetics and what you call these hybrids. And it really, even though it has no real connection, it really made me think more about Winona Ryder's character in
Alien
Alien
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Hmm.
Because I remember the biggest criticism of her character because she was playing a synth was she tried too hard to be human. Like it came off sometimes like as over performative, so people didn't buy her role. But the
Okay.
way this breaks down the dynamic of having hybrids with a human consciousness and cyborgs and things like that, and how those things always play huge parts in the backgrounds of alien stories, especially as it pertains to Wayland and Utani, because they either help move the story along and s- help the protagonist, or
Hmm.
they are the antagonist. And I think
Hmm.
that's very interesting.
Well, even sticking to the Android point, um, I think it's actually beneficial for people to read the novelization of the first movie because that crew did not know that Ash was an android. And
Hmm.
when they figure out that he's an android, it all starts to come together because he was not actively like having sex or trying to have sex with anybody on the ship. So like they was, some of the crew members was actively participating in things and he wasn't a part of that. And so it was like, they kind of thought that was odd, but it's just like in the novelization, it was just basically like, oh well, now that makes sense because he wasn't necessarily trying to get anything. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, but yeah, I feel like that's where the show is going to end. It's going to end with this second company. They're going to be taken out. Wayland Utani is going to get the data from that, and then they're going to be in search of how do we get our hands on this based on what we've seen this thing do, and that's when you ping the Nostromo because they're the closest to where this crew picked up those eggs, but you don't
Yep.
tell them anything about it. So to me, it all is still intact. Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't interfere with anything because
Yeah.
Whale and Utani is not actually like in charge right now. And they still don't technically like they have the data, that the cyborg sent over, but I don't believe that they purposely went out into space to find that specific, like, like xenomorphs. They just went out to find species on other planets and just
I would
happened to
say
hop.
yes, and that's what cleans it up because they have biological diversity on that ship. It's
Hmm.
not just and and that adds another layer to the diversity that I was speaking to earlier. We're definitely and another thing that correlates to it as well is the hybrid thing with the synthetics and cyborgs.
Hmm.
Definitely going to get some diversity with the aliens, and we're definitely going to get some hybrid diversity with the xenomorphs. There's
Yeah.
there's no possible way we finally get xenomorph on Earth and basically pristine environment that could have the potential to run off and procreate with either of the other aliens that they have captured or something else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be wild, man.
I would say
So
it could go anywhere.
true. It can. It can. But making sure we keeping with the points. How do you feel about the xenomorph design? Like it, love it, hate it?
I mean, I'm right in the middle. I'm indifferent. I don't feel any type of way about it. It doesn't look bad
Hmm.
as long as it doesn't look it. It has some scenes where it appears too blocky or too smooth, or it doesn't give the sleekness sometimes that we're used to seeing with it
Hmm.
before it being a TV show and whatever their budget is and having the suit actor perform. I think they did well with it. I'm
Yeah.
not too high or too low on it. For what it is, I'm happy with it, and I have no complaints, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think with every film iteration, the xenomorph has they have different characteristics and they look a little different, even if they come from human hosts or not, right? So
That is 100% true.
yeah, so like the design for Big Chap was very um different than the design for James Cameron's xenomorphs, but
Mhm.
we knew what they were. And whether there's an explanation for it or not, that's not a problem for me. And likely because, if I'm being really honest, we've talked about this offline about where our starting point with a series was growing up.
Right.
Aliens was my first film with the
Mhm.
franchise, and then I saw the first film and thought, like, oh man, this is cool, because I told you, like, me having to go back and find information, I love doing that. So it kind of framed the
Bro, for
works.
the longest time, when I was younger, I had to remember that Aliens isn't the first Alien
Yeah.
movie.
Well, because as a kid, man, like watching Aliens, I had the misconception that the crew was on Hadley's Hope. So my
Mm,
imagination always imagined them on Hadley's Hope, and not that they had their own ship. So when I finally did, and I'm still a kid when I was definitely before, like it was definitely before I was 10 years old, definitely before I was
mm,
9 years old, because I had the copy of the
mhm.
VHS while we were at our old house, and we didn't move from our old house till I was 9. So I had the VHS like pre 9 years old watching it, and so it just gave me new context, like, oh, they had their own ship and they went to the planet that these people went on. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like filling in the gaps like that as a kid was kind of cool. um
Yep.
but yeah, no, so the xenomorph has always had a different presentation as the film goes on, but not enough to be, in my opinion, distracting. you know and then I think that the designers, they just want to put their little their spill on it, and I don't see anything wrong with that. It's still, yeah, is it as slimy as the other ones? No. But
Yeah, I'm saying the KY Diddy budget just not there for that. It's not this type of flick. It's not
yeah,
what we're watching.
but it has it in the most important parts, which is when you have a close encounter and things like that. To me, that's what matters. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna nitpick to that degree. And to me, not that I'm not saying the story justifies it, but the story being good makes it a thing where I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with this. So
And that's the dichotomy where it would be going from either just it's amazing to it's horrible. Like if you just
mhm.
had an average story and your suit actor, your CGI was just trash, and then vice versa.
Hmm.
But I feel like it as a whole, it just falls into a comfortable, safe spot
Okay.
as it
So,
stands.
what are your theories of where this ends up? Where we're going from here? Because we pretty much covered mine.
Where besides the hybridization of xenomorphs and chest bursters with creatures that originally inhabit Earth, really, I'm just looking forward to what I think all of the other average fans are looking forward to, besides fitting in chronologically, would be when or where do the predators show up?
People have been saying that, and if they, I don't know,
I'll
man.
be honest, that's what we all want, bro. People want that showdown. People want story and lore and action filled about those two going head to head.
Hmm.
But I'm not. I wouldn't be mad if we don't, as long as we get all the lore drop and visuals of an alien and its life cycle and things that they do off screen.
Hmm.
Now, if they provide that how I feel that they will do, I have no problem with it not tying in or connected to Badlands or having a predator presence in it.
Hmm. Okay.
Like really more so more than anything, I really feel like they're doing a lot with Easter eggs and paying homage to films before it and things that connect to other universes. But I really feel like it's taking a strong comic book style that it's just underlined because the story is compelling enough. And when you have Alien on screen, you're not thinking too much ahead.
Hmm.
Besides the chronological issues that Alien franchise has, but other than that, me personally, I wholeheartedly believe it. The comic book style of things, the way that things happen, and how weird this franchise is across other media, I think that's going to come out.
Okay. Okay. Well, the only other thing that I got is I'm just looking forward to seeing where the synthetics connection is to the xenomorph and why she was having these headache spasms, whatever you want to call it, and why she ended up passing out. But I'll be real interested to see that,
Yeah,
and
I
what
didn't
that's
mention
about.
it because I have no clue.
Yeah, and I like that. Like when there's actual mystery to something, and we don't have an actual answer, and we have to go along for the ride for this thing. I love that. I love
And
that.
that's why I say this gives me the comic book feel because that character in itself, and she is a hybrid. She's a synth with human consciousness,
Hmm.
and that somehow she has a weird connection to what they would call the perfect organism, and then all of the other organisms in that hierarchy. We only have two at the moment with the face hugger and Xeno, but that could become something even larger and even
Yeah.
greater. And those type of things and how that's set up very much so reminds me of all the weird things that take place in alien comic books. And I'm telling anybody right now, if you haven't read some alien comic books or some books, that shit gets weird.
It does. It does. Now those stories, they get wild, man.
Yes,
They
it
get
wild
wild.
things get said, wild things happen, wild things get done. You're like, oh my lord.
Yeah.